Thanksgiving night was supposed to be warm, peaceful. A moment where families all over the country sat together, held hands, and reminded each other what they were grateful for. But for Maya Carter, this Thanksgiving became the night her entire world cracked open. She had spent the whole afternoon preparing dinner in her townhouse kitchen, the home she had purchased long before marriage, long before she ever imagined her life could collapse this way. She moved quietly between the stove and the counter, stirring gravy, seasoning vegetables, setting plates she hoped would distract her from the growing emptiness inside her chest. For 5 years, she had poured herself into her marriage, her time, her career, her dreams, all sacrificed so her husband Ethan could rise through the ranks of her family's company. She believed that loyalty would be enough to hold them together. It wasn't. Because just as the turkey finished roasting, Maya heard the front door open. Ethan walked in like nothing was wrong. And behind him came a woman Maya hadn't seen in years. Olivia Hart, Ethan's college sweetheart. Beautiful, confident, and 7 months pregnant. The sight hit Maya like a blow to the ribs. In a single moment, everything made sense. Ethan's late nights, his sudden distance, the coldness he drowned her in any time she asked if something was wrong. It wasn't work stress. It wasn't pressure. It was betrayal. And betrayal had a face now, a very pregnant one. Maya didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply stood frozen in the living room as the truth carved itself into her heart. And while her mind spun with confusion, Ethan acted as though nothing unusual had happened. As though bringing a pregnant ex into his wife's home on Thanksgiving was a normal, reasonable thing to do. The humiliation burned deep, but the worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was the way Ethan looked at her, as if she was the one inconveniencing him, as if she should simply accept this new reality. Moments later, the hallway walls upstairs heard the conversation Maya would never repeat to anyone, not even her mother. While the rest of the house buzzed with noise, Maya confronted Ethan behind closed doors. She learned, in the coldest way possible, that he blamed her for their lack of children. He blamed her body, her infertility, for pushing him towards someone else. He didn't apologize. He didn't hesitate. He simply shifted the burden onto her shoulders and walked away, using the law and the marriage license as weapons, reminding her that the home she bought before the wedding now belonged to both of them. A perfect excuse to force her to live with his ex. For the first time in her marriage, Maya realized Ethan didn't see her as a partner, but as property, replaceable, expendable, convenient, until she wasn't. Late that night, after the confrontation, Maya sat alone on the edge of her bed. She held her phone tightly, fighting the urge to call her parents and tell them everything. But she didn't. Maya had always been the type who shared good news freely and hid the bad out of fear of worrying anyone she loved. So when her mother called for Thanksgiving brunch, Maya forced her voice into something bright, something steady, something untrue. She lied. She said everything was fine, and she promised she'd come by soon, even though she had no idea how to face her mother and say, "My marriage is falling apart, and I don't know who I am anymore." But the final crack in Maya's heart came after the call ended, when the sound of laughter drifted up from downstairs. Not her laughter, not her joy, but Ethan, Olivia, and Ethan's mother, all toasting together. To family, a family she was suddenly no longer part of. And that is how Maya began the night that would change the rest of her life. Morning came far too quickly for Maya, but the house sounded alive long before she opened her eyes. Pots clattering, chairs scraping, voices humming in a place where they didn't belong. She took a breath, steady, trembling, and walked downstairs. But the moment she reached the kitchen doorway, she stopped cold. Olivia was already there, wearing one of Ethan's hoodies, making coffee in Maya's machine. Moving through the kitchen like she'd rehearsed for this moment her entire life. Maya didn't speak. She didn't have to. The scene spoke for itself. Ethan's mother sat at the island counter, her eyes bright with approval. Approval Maya hadn't seen in years. To her, Olivia wasn't an intruder. She was a blessing. The woman who could give the family something Maya couldn't. A child. A legacy. A reason to push Maya aside. The humiliation was subtle but sharp. Every look, every smile, every pointed glance toward Olivia's belly. And then came the suggestion that cut deeper than any direct insult. They wanted Olivia to have the master bedroom. The room Maya had decorated, dreamed in, cried in. The room where she imagined a future that clearly never belonged to her. The justification was simple, spoken with the kind of patronizing kindness that hurts the most. It would be better for the baby, better for Olivia's comfort, better for Ethan's growing family. Maya was told she could take the guest room, just for a while, just until things settled. But nothing about this home felt like hers anymore. Not the kitchen, not the bedroom, not even the air she was breathing. And the blow that followed was the one that nearly crumpled her. If she truly loved Ethan, if she really wanted what was best for him, she would make room for his child. A child that wasn't hers. A family she was being replaced in. A life she had helped build, now being given away like she was a visitor in her own home. Maya didn't argue, didn't scream. She simply stood there absorbing the weight of her new reality, feeling herself shrink smaller and smaller. But the world outside her home was no kinder. Later that morning, Maya walked into the headquarters of Carter and Blake Designs, a place she had loved since childhood. A company built by her parents' sweat and brilliance, a brand she had helped shape with her own creativity. She expected a normal meeting. Instead, she walked into a trap. Ethan stood confidently at the head of the boardroom table, surrounded by executives, investors, and her own family. His tone was smooth and rehearsed as he announced a necessary adjustment in leadership. He claimed Maya was stressed, exhausted, in need of rest so she could focus on starting a family. A family he had already decided to build with someone else. He implied she had been holding the company back, that her designs lacked innovation, that the recent slow growth was partly her fault. The room fell painfully silent. Her parents exchanged confused glances. Board members murmured. Maya felt the floor tilt under her feet. And then, at the doorway, she saw him. Lucas Reyes. The boy she once knew in the summers of her childhood. The man she hadn't seen in years. A familiar face at the exact moment her world felt most foreign. Their eyes met, and for a brief, aching second, she remembered a version of herself that hadn't yet been broken. After the meeting, they shared a quiet elevator ride, awkward, nostalgic, and painfully gentle. Maya kept her answers light, pretending everything was fine, while Lucas watched her with the intuition of someone who had seen her fall apart before. And when his phone buzzed with a message from Ethan, requesting a private meeting about new investors, Lucas finally understood something Maya was trying desperately to hide. In his mind, one thought echoed. The last time Maya lied to me, she was hiding a broken arm from her ex. This felt exactly the same. And the pressure around Maya continued to tighten. Here is Act 3, rewritten into a 600-word narrator-only script, maintaining emotional depth, tension, and cinematic pacing. No dialogue, no spoken lines, just the narrator guiding the story with powerful storytelling. Night fell heavy over the townhouse, settling into the corners like unwelcome truth. Maya walked toward the master bedroom she once cherished, the room where she'd imagined a future full of warmth, stability, and family. But when she opened the door, the sight that greeted her was something she would never forget. Olivia stood in front of the mirror, draped in Maya's favorite dress, her fingers glittering with Maya's jewelry. She wasn't trying them on out of curiosity. She was testing how easily she could take over Maya's life. The room, once sacred, now felt like a stage where Olivia rehearsed a role she fully intended to steal. When Maya asked Ethan to put a stop to it, to ask Olivia to stop touching her things, to show her the smallest amount of respect, Ethan didn't see the pain in Maya's eyes. He saw competition. He saw inconvenience. He saw a wife standing in the way of the new life he wanted to create. His anger was instant and explosive. He accused Maya of jealousy, of bitterness, of being ungrateful for everything he had achieved, achievements built on her family's company, her connections, and her sacrifices. Then came the words that cut deeper than betrayal ever could. Words meant to break her completely. He weaponized her infertility, as if her worth lived in her womb, as if her inability to conceive justified everything he'd done. And when he threatened to divorce her, he made sure she felt powerless, reminding her that he handled the finances, that he decided what she would or wouldn't walk away with, that she would be left with nothing if she dared to leave. But he didn't know something important. He didn't know Maya wasn't powerless. He didn't know she hadn't forgotten who she was. He didn't know the quiet strength of someone who had survived heartbreak long before he came along. Because when Maya looked at him in that moment, something shifted in her. The fear evaporated. The desperation dissolved. And all that remained was a cold, unwavering calm. A calm that whispered, "We'll see about that." Later that night, alone in the dim light of her walk-in closet, Maya opened a locked drawer she hadn't touched in 2 years. Inside was a single folder, a memory she wished she never had to revisit. The flashback came instantly. She saw herself sitting in a hospital clinic, the fluorescent lights too bright, the chairs too cold, the silence too thick. She remembered the doctor's voice, gentle but firm, as he explained Ethan's infertility. Natural conception would never be possible for him. Maya had cried that day, but not for herself. She cried for Ethan, for the shame he would carry, for the pride that would shatter. She chose to protect him, to hide the truth, to spare his dignity. And now, she was being punished for a secret she kept out of love. Back in the present, Maya closed the medical report with steady hands. The truth was her weapon now. A few hours later, she sat in a quiet coffee shop across from Lucas, a friend who had returned at the exact moment she needed someone to lean on. For the first time, she told someone everything. The betrayal, the pregnancy, the threats, the humiliation. Lucas listened and then added the missing piece. Ethan had been siphoning money from the company, preparing a buyout, planning every step of his escape. Together, they mapped their plan. Investigate Olivia's background. audit Ethan's financial movements, and most importantly, confirm the truth about the pregnancy. Because if Olivia was truly pregnant, Ethan's medical report made that impossible. Later that night, Maya set the plan in motion. She placed a baby-themed gift bag near the living room couch, a harmless, adorable prop containing a hidden camera and audio recorder. Minutes later, Olivia and Ethan sat down within range. They spoke about money, about taking control of Maya's family business, and then Olivia slipped. A joke, a name, a careless admission. A moment that exposed the truth. The baby wasn't Ethan's. And at almost the same moment, Maya's phone buzzed. A text from Lucas. "Results are in. Call me." The turning point had arrived. The next morning arrived with a heaviness that felt like the sky itself was holding its breath. Inside the Carter & Blake Designs boardroom, tension thickened the air like humidity before a storm. Silent, suffocating, waiting to break. Rows of investors filled their seats. Maya's parents sat near the front, confusion on their faces. Ethan stood tall at the head of the table, shoulders back, confidence radiating off him. Beside him stood Olivia, styled in a fitted dress, her curls immaculate, her hand resting delicately over her bump, as if she were the company's future. And Ethan wanted everyone in that room to believe exactly that. He began his presentation with rehearsed charm, unveiling a so-called restructuring plan designed to push the Carter family into the background. He spoke of modern leadership, fresh direction, and the new generation he wanted to usher in. Every word was dressed as strategy, but the truth hid between the lines. He planned to replace the owners with himself. He thought he had already won. But before the final vote, Maya rose slowly from her chair, calm, composed, a quiet storm ready to break. She asked for a moment to speak. The room stilled. And then, from a small device she placed on the table, came the voices that changed everything. Ethan and Olivia captured on audio, laughing together, plotting to take over the company, calling Maya infertile dead weight, talking about draining her family's resources, mocking her loyalty, mocking her marriage. The room erupted in shocked whispers. Investors leaned forward. Maya's mother covered her mouth with trembling hands. Ethan's confident expression evaporated. But Maya wasn't finished. She placed 2 folders on the table. The first, Ethan's infertility report, stamped and signed by a specialist. Proof that he could never father a child naturally. A ripple of disbelief moved through the boardroom. Then she laid down the second folder, the prenatal DNA test. Undeniable evidence that Olivia's baby belonged to someone else entirely. Silence. The kind that changes lives. Olivia's face drained of colour. Her composure cracked. She stammered, insisting the test was fake, a setup, anything she could grasp to steady her collapsing world. But Maya was ready. She played a short video, quiet and clinical, of the doctor confirming the results. There was no room left for denial. Ethan's mother sank into her chair, shame rolling over her. Investors leaned back, disgust replacing curiosity. And then Lucas stepped forward. With perfect timing, he placed a stack of printed documents on the table, financial evidence of Ethan's secret embezzlement, the money he moved in preparation to steal the company. It was over. Completely. Irrevocably. Publicly. And in the stunned hush that followed, Maya delivered the final blow with ice-cold clarity. As majority shareholders, my parents and I vote to remove Ethan Blake as COO of Carter & Blake Designs, effective immediately. There was no applause. Just the sound of Ethan's entire empire crumbling in front of the people he tried to impress. Hours later, humiliation followed him home. Outside Maya's townhouse, her property long before marriage, movers carried out Ethan's and Olivia's belongings. Neighbors gathered on sidewalks, whispering behind hands, watching the downfall unravel in real time. Olivia cried about being pregnant and homeless, clinging to Ethan, hoping pity would save them. Ethan shouted accusations, calling Maya cold, vindictive, ungrateful. But Maya stood steady, unbothered, unshakable. She revealed the truth without raising her voice. The condo belonged to her alone. It was never marital property. It was protected, and every paper she needed, the divorce filings, the legal notices, had already been signed. Ethan had no leverage left. Maya looked at him one last time, not with anger, but with the certainty of a woman reclaiming her life. "You came into my life with empty hands, Ethan," she said softly. "And you leave the same way." And as the movers shut the truck doors and drove away, the chapter of betrayal closed for good. But Maya's story wasn't ending. It was finally beginning. The first night after the storm did not feel like freedom. It felt like release, heavy, slow, and raw. Maya sat at the Carter family dining table, surrounded by the quiet warmth of home. A smaller dinner, just her and her parents, nothing fancy. Just love, the kind she had forgotten she still deserved. For the first time in years, Maya let the tears fall freely. She didn't hide, she didn't apologize. She simply cried for the years she lost, the dreams she buried, the woman she'd almost forgotten she was. Her parents listened in silence, then told her the truth she had never allowed herself to hear. They had suspected for a long time that she wasn't happy. They had seen the spark in her fade. But they waited for the moment she felt safe enough to come home on her own terms. And her father, who had always spoken more through actions than words, reached across the table and said something she would remember forever. "You don't need to earn your place here, Maya. You're our daughter, not our employee." The words healed something in her. Later that night, as she washed dishes beside her mother, Maya's phone buzzed. A short message appeared on the screen. A simple line that made her heart shift in a way she wasn't expecting. "Are you still coming tomorrow? Everything's ready. Lucas." The next day, Maya stepped into a world that had once felt out of reach. Her own future. The gallery was stunning. White walls, soft lighting, elegant displays. Lucas had organized a private exhibition dedicated entirely to Maya's work. He invited industry leaders from the US, Canada, Australia, people who could change her career overnight. And when Maya walked in, wearing one of her own handcrafted pieces, she didn't feel broken anymore. She felt like an artist, a woman. Someone rediscovering her power. Guests circled the room, admiring designs she had created in moments of passion, heartbreak, and hope. And among the crowd stood a respected designer, a legend in the field, who reviewed Maya's pieces with genuine admiration. Her verdict was life-changing, a licensing offer, a partnership, a chance to build something of her own, independent of Ethan, independent of her past. But the moment that stole Maya's breath came from Lucas. In the center of the gallery, beneath a spotlight, he revealed a display case containing a single piece, a redesigned version of one of her old sketches, something she had drawn years ago, long before marriage. He titled it Second Chance. And for the first time, Maya believed she was allowed to have one. Later that night, on the rooftop terrace above the gallery, Lucas stood with her beneath the sweeping skyline. The air was cool, crisp, and full of possibility. It was there he finally confessed that he had loved her quietly since they were teenagers. He hadn't said anything back then because she had chosen someone else, and he respected her choice. But Maya wasn't ready for a love story, not yet, and she told him so with honesty. Lucas simply nodded, a soft smile forming. "Then let me just walk next to you." And as fireworks lit the night sky in distant bursts of colour, Maya reached for his hand, not out of desperation, but out of peace. Much later, alone in her new studio, Maya received one final call. Ethan's voice was cracked, defeated, calling from a cheap motel room. He apologized. He admitted he had ruined his own life. He asked for forgiveness. Maya listened. She didn't cry. She didn't hate him anymore. She forgave him, not for his sake, but for her own freedom. But she left him with no contact, no future, no doorway back into her world. Then she deleted his number, placed her phone on a table covered in new designs, and breathed, a deep, steady breath of a woman finally free. The final montage of her life told the truth. Maya teaching young designers in her studio, laughing with her parents in the kitchen, walking beside Lucas, slow and steady, choosing her own pace, mailing out her first solo collection to customers around the world. Her voice carried over the final frame. "I didn't lose my life when I lost my husband. I finally got it back." And as the screen faded to black, one question remained. If this were you, would you stay or walk away? Tell me in the comments.